Hey guys, so I'm talking about the Legion 9. This is going to be kind of like a first look, but a fairly detailed first look. But man, I am really liking this so far, and I think this is going to be my main laptop. Let's get into it. Alright guys, so let's talk about the build and the design. We got to talk about this forged carbon. So apparently this is made from like a pressed type of carbon. Each unit is unique. These brush slash press looking portions of the lid are unique. No two Legion 9s will look the same. So it's not carbon fiber, which typically uses a woven pattern. As you can see, that's in a lot of phone cases and a lot of accessories out there. This is something different. I think it feels like a similar type of material though. So it does feel kind of rubberized and a bit plasticky. Not terrible feeling though. It still feels high quality, and it is tough. It is really rigid. There's like little to no flex on this laptop, like maybe just a tiny bit, because I'm doing something unrealistic that no person should typically do. In certain lighting situations, this lusters and shines like nothing else I've ever seen before. In some situations, it could almost look like kind of metallic and brushed. It's quite a sight to look at. And a lot of the other videos I've seen, it looked like it was kind of like a green. Like I was thinking it was kind of like an army green, and I wasn't a fan of it. So like just for example, like just take a look at my wallet here. In my head, I was expecting something more of a color like this. That is not what it looks like. It looks more like a gray and a black. But like, how do I feel overall about this design? I think at the end of the day, I think I would still prefer metal. I still think the cold feeling of metal still feels higher quality to me, and this is made out of mostly recycled parts. This entire laptop is, and actually the entire unboxing experience of the Legion is a lot more green than even the Legion 7 2023 that came out this year. So Lenovo's making a really big push towards that, and ultimately, yes, that is the right decision. I just know, like, from a few years ago, things made out of recycled parts was just always considered like low quality and cheap. But with a lot of companies pushing towards a greener presence, marketing is starting to shift towards stating that, hey, going green can still be high quality and can still be considered luxury and can still be considered premium. So Legion is definitely heading in that direction. I mean, and with the price starting at $3,799, like this is commanding a lot. This particular unit I have is completely maxed out, so this costed way more than that. If you are interested in this laptop, I do have links in the description. It'll take you directly to Lenovo's website. It is an affiliate link, so using that link really helps me out. No additional charge to you. And it allows me to invest more into this channel, like this new microphone I got. So let me know what you guys think. I think this sounds a lot better. Anyway, I spent a bit too much time talking about this material. Anyway, so on the back left, you got a Lenovo logo. This is made out of metal and it shines nicely. The return of RGB is here on the bottom lid. And this back portion is made out of plastic. I can't fault Lenovo for that, because this back area is where all the exhaust is, and it gets incredibly hot. Plastic tends to not hold on to heat on the chassis as much as metal does, so I think this was the right decision. And also with Legion, you also have identification of what the ports are, and this lights up again. Alright, so let's flip it over to the back. And this is made out of all metal. The back lid feels like a good quality metal. I'm not gonna say it feels like Razer, but it feels fairly premium. So let's open this guy up. The keyboard deck. So first thing that really sticks out is the amount of space that is dedicated towards ventilation. It's a lot, but I mean, for a laptop this thin, it's able to get the full performance out of the 13980 and the RTX 4090, which is what I have in this unit. One thing I do want to point out is the fans are completely see-through, so you can see all the way to the back of it. Okay, so really quickly, let's talk about the keyboard deck. It's covered in a soft touch type of rubbery pattern, similar to what ROG uses on their M16 models, and what Alienware uses on their laptops too. So I'm used to Lenovo using the plastic that we found on the Legion 7, which I did not like the way that felt. That felt cheap. But anyway, I almost want to say that this is a magnesium alloy, because it does feel really hard and very rigid. Big marks here on the keyboard deck. And something else that they brought back was the fingerprint sensor. It doesn't have Windows Hello though, and that's something I've been kind of getting used to a little bit more and more. At this price point, I have to be incredibly critical towards Lenovo about this. There should have been both a fingerprint sensor and Windows Hello on the camera. And in terms of the keyboard and the trackpad returns as a glass trackpad, and it feels amazing, much better than the plastic trackpad on the Legion 7. Though, as you can see, it's much smaller. When I'm using it normally, it hasn't bothered me. I have noticed that when I'm doing like a 2-finger scroll, it does get a little bit annoying. My fingers tend to rub against the top and the bottom of the keyboard deck, and it's not always registering. But anyway, in terms of the actual typing quality, I enjoy typing on this. I love having access to a full and proper numpad, and the amount of actuation force necessary to register a key on the keyboard itself is just absolutely perfect. It almost feels like a clicky mechanical keyboard, but it's not as loud. And once it's depressed, it has like a really nice bounce back up. The keys don't have any type of wobble. It is dampened by some foam, which I did notice when I took off one of the keycaps. Overall, it's just like a really nice typing experience. Okay, so let's move our way onto the lid. It does not fold all the way down anymore. This is as far back as it goes. The hinge is made out of metal. It's a super smooth feeling hinge. It requires a good amount of force, and you can open it one hand easily, and on top of that, it's just completely smooth tension throughout. And in terms of flex, there's none. Back to the lid. Bezel itself is actually made out of metal too. The corners of the display are curved now, which is new. I haven't seen that on any gaming laptops. So overall, the build, in the full review, I'm going to have an idea of how I feel about it. Alright, so next I want to talk about the speakers. Let's do a speaker test. So, to my surprise, I know that this particular model only has 2 speakers versus I believe the Legion 7 had more. The Legion 7 does sound better. I'll just start off by saying that. And I know I've said this again and again, but the decisions made for this laptop is more along the lines of getting the best performance. So unfortunately, because of how thin this machine is, this is probably the best that they could actually do with the speakers. But overall, I was expecting the speakers to be trash. They're not. I mean, obviously, if you do really care about speakers, you could do a lot better than these. But for what they are, I was fairly happy with it. Let's talk about the display. Okay, so let's just quickly go over the measurements. Alright, so we're looking at 100% sRGB, 88% of Adobe RGB, and 98% of DCI-P3, and 86% of the NTSC standard. And in terms of the contrast ratio, I measured a perfect 0:1, like if it was an OLED. Obviously, this test isn't really meant to handle mini LED displays. This is not OLED level. It's really close. It's really good. I'll get into how I feel about the display overall, but I just kind of wanted to talk about the actual scientific measurements I've gotten so far. Oh, and brightness is 624 nits in both HDR and SDR, so I'm not able to see the 1000 nits that are advertised. So, okay, so numbers aside, just visually, just me looking at the screen, this is by far the best screen I have seen on any laptop. I do want to point out that there's some flickering. It flickers more than any of the other mini LED displays that I've used this year, but every single mini LED panel that I've used this year has some kind of flickering, so I'm not sure if it'll bother you or not. It's a little bit too early for me to determine if this is going to bother me long term. It doesn't usually like really start to bother me until like a few weeks of actually using the laptop, but just playing some games, editing some photos, and just using it as a regular laptop, I haven't really noticed it. But like I said, these kind of things start to get on my nerves a little bit later on in the process, so I'll have to report back on that when I do the full review. So because this is a mini LED panel, we got to talk about blooming. Lenovo was a little bit smart with how they tuned this display, so I am not really able to detect any type of blooming unless I do one of those YouTube blooming tests. Then I'm able to see it a little bit, but the reason why I'm not able to is because if there's like a white scene but surrounding by a lot of black, Lenovo chooses to dim that white portion. So if you're looking at a star, for example, or Lenovo is choosing to not make that portion really bright in order to mask blooming. So in a way it's kind of cheating, but unless I'm looking at another display side by side, I won't really notice. And that's not something that my eyes immediately pick up on, but blooming it does. So I think they made the right decision. But I mean, that's only when you're like kind of stress testing this thing. When I played some video games, I played some Overwatch. I watched a whole bunch of HDR videos. Some of the ones that I look at on every single display that I get, whether it's like a monitor or a laptop. And man, this looks perfect. And this is the first laptop. This is actually the first display I've used where you don't have to run that HDR calibrator. In fact, I don't recommend it. If you look in the display settings, you can see that it's already Dolby Vision and HDR VESA 1000 certified. So don't touch any of that. Just use it as normal. And I don't know if you guys noticed, in some HDR displays, when you switch on HDR mode, unless you're looking at HDR content, everything kind of looks a little bit dull and grayish. Not this. Like, I can't even tell when HDR is on or off. So that attests to not only the color volume that this laptop is able to produce, but the accuracy that Lenovo has went through to tune this display. And so far it looks very accurate. But speaking of accuracy though, one thing that I'm missing is that X-Rite app. And I was kind of looking forward to that so I could switch between sRGB mode, Adobe RGB, and DCI-P3. It doesn't seem like I'm able to change a color gamut like I could with an MSI laptop with their MSI True Color or the previous Lenovo Legions, which had the X-Rite. But anyway, back to gaming. Man, HDR pops. HDR screams. It looks, oh my god, it looks so good. Okay, now it sounds like I'm fanboying too much, but the thing is, I think the Razer Blades 16-inch mini LED panel looked incredible too, but Razer kind of oversaturates that panel, so it looks a little bit better than real. So to where it's not really accurate. This looks accurate. This looks just as good as when I'm using the right HDR tone mapping as I would on my actual OLED TV. So it's amazing. Okay, so then all the gaming aspects. I played a round of Overwatch and I performed better in that game than I have with some of the other gaming laptops I've had. The response time seems really fast. I didn't notice any ghosting. I was able to perform really quick actions, really close up. So this is a panel that just really doesn't have any sacrifices, unless you consider 165 hertz to be a sacrifice compared to 240 hertz, which seems to be more of like the norm this year. And finally, I need to mention the additional resolution. This is 3000 by 2000, so it does look substantially sharper than a QHD Plus panel. Maybe I shouldn't say substantially sharper, but it is noticeable. I am able to notice more details in certain games than compared to a QHD panel. But actually, one reason where it does look a lot better is in DLSS games or FSR games. One thing I've noticed is FSR and DLSS really starts to look a lot better when it's upscaling to a higher resolution like 4K. So when it's upscaling to 1080p, it actually doesn't really look good at all. And when it's upscaling to 1440p, it looks okay. I can actually still see some artifacts. I can still see some of the noise reduction algorithm kind of freaking out. DLSS and FSR on this screen at 3000 by 2000 looks substantially sharper than DLSS and FSR on the QHD panel of the Legion 7. Okay, so let's talk performance. When I do the full review, I'm going to do my typical tests with a 16:9 screen at 1080p, 1440p, and 4K, so you can see how it compares against other laptops. I didn't really have time to put that all together, but I did do some testing on the native screen, and as you can see, man, this thing, you're able to run every single game. And one thing that surprised me was even with that 140 watt charge, I mean, since it came with one in the box, I figured I'd test with both chargers. you're able to play just about every single game. Like being able to play Cyberpunk with maxed out settings while, yes, using DLSS 3.0 with the frame generation, being able to get 30 plus FPS on that title at only 140-watt power brick is incredible. And now I'm starting to see why some of the other laptop brands are shoving an RTX 4090 in some of their smaller laptops, like with the ROG G14. Obviously, you're not going to be able to get the full performance out of that card, but you're able to get really, really good performance in a small package. So it's crazy. And looking at Guardians of the Galaxy with max out ray tracing settings, being able to get 72 FPS at the full resolution, I should say, with the DLSS Ultra, that's nuts. I feel like this is the first and only gaming laptop where I really feel comfortable about doing a comparison between the MacBook. The only thing where the MacBook will win is in battery life. So let's talk about that. It's like every single 13980 laptop I've checked out this year. I'm 3 hours, 4 hours max. And this is for me using it just regularly, just as a regular laptop. So anyway, this is just me doing a quick video on this laptop because I was super excited. I just had to talk about it. But this isn't a full review yet. That's going to come soon. After I run this thing through its paces, edit some videos on it, do some more gaming, and just use it as a regular laptop. And I'll definitely let you guys know about what that experience has been like. Hey guys, I just realized I didn't even talk about thermals or that liquid pump with the liquid cooling. I haven't done any type of thermal testing on it just because I've been using it as a laptop and gaming and not focusing on those numbers. But in my limited use, I don't see it throttling in anything that I do. Nothing gets to the scary territories in terms of temperatures from the little bit I've seen. The GPU is hovering around like 78 to like 82-ish on the GPU. Like when I'm gaming, and the CPU doesn't really get up to any like high 90s and anything unless you're running like a benchmark or something. But I'll do further testing when I do the full review. So make sure you get subscribed for that. Thanks a lot, guys. Bye.